to the Lease Line podcast. We took a little bit of a break because, man, the NHL just took a spin since the last time we discussed. I am Mario Russo. To my left, or to probably your bottom left, whatever it may be, is Jared Rotenberg, and below me is Adamo Rimoli. We got a lot of things to uncover today. We're missing Evan Davis, who by two accounts is either in Mexico, probably as a hostage for the cartel, or he's maybe eating dinner with his family. We don't know yet. We're going to probably get the confirmed case as the night goes on. But yeah, he's down south having the best time of his life. I'd hope we're up here in lockdown once again. And it's been brutal, at least for me. I'm sure it is for you guys. I just finished a quarantine, which was also pretty brutal. I'm shaking off the symptoms as we speak. If you want the skinny down here, me and Jared are pretty roughed up. We had long days, long nights. He's trying to get back to his sleep schedule. I'm trying to catch some sleep as well. And of course, Rimoli's doing perfectly fine at the bottom there because,
I'm just
it
chilling.
wouldn't be any other way. Just chilling. We got a lot of things to talk about, including the Leafs and the Oilers, their matchup tonight. Or if I'm releasing this tomorrow, it would be yesterday's matchup. Leafs take that game 4-2 as your final. A lot of problems we have seen with the Edmonton Oilers over the past couple of weeks. We'll be dissecting their team as a whole. And is there a coaching change necessary? It's been causing lots of havoc on Twitter. We'll be getting your thoughts of that as well. And the New York Rangers, man, they are a pretty terrific team, to say the least. They skyrocket to the top of the table in the NHL. I believe they have 48 points in 35 games. I'll be getting your guys' thoughts. And if this team is legit contenders, or are they just smoke in the mirrors? Because there's a lot of things to look at with this group. And I think we're going to do a great job of analyzing them. And if we have time, and I think we will have time, we will get to the Trivia 7. We did miss it on the last episode of the Lease Line podcast. I am hoping not to miss it this time, because I'm sure it is going to be a good one. But how about we talk about where we left off? And I want to thank you guys, the fans, first and foremost, for putting up the views, the likes, you name it. I really appreciate your support. We appreciate your support on this channel. We did very well in the World Juniors, and I thought we brought some terrific coverage, and you brought some terrific comments, terrific analysis on your part. And I really just appreciate all you guys clicking on the videos from Slovakia, who we didn't think was going to rack up all those views, but they ended up doing so, to Canada, to the US, and all that jazz. I thank you guys for the ride. It's too bad it got cut short. Why don't we just start off pretty quickly with the World Juniors getting cut off short after a couple positive cases. Really, the IHF decides to suspend the tournament, which has really caused havoc on Twitter and social media, whatever have you, just because of the fact that they had a tournament last season when COVID can arguably be in one of the worst positions last December, and everything ran perfectly fine. There was no problems whatsoever with the empty arenas. No one was complaining. We were just happy to watch great competitive hockey. This year, everything changed, and they canceled the tournament after a handful of COVID cases. So very briefly, boys, what are your thoughts on the cancellations, and maybe just briefly some things you noticed about the tournament, the players within it? Because I know it lasted 2 or 3 days, but we saw some pretty terrific talents on there. Start with you, Jared. What did you think of the little things, the small kind of tournament we had, and how are you feeling about it coming such short notice coming down of it?
Well, for starters, I'm gonna touch on the secondary thing you said at the end. I'm pretty frustrated, to be honest, about how it all happened, how it all was handled. I don't think the IIHF really did everything in their power to put the precautions in place. I think they very much were mentally like, we're done with COVID, we're done with the COVID world, and as a result, they decided no bubble. They decided to try to get the players to be in hotels and stuff with the general public, which I just think it was way too early to do that. So I could go on forever about that, but I just think they really dropped the ball, to be honest. It was frustrating how that happened, because everyone was so hyped, everyone was so ready, and then about 2 days later, just a couple positive tests, and the whole tournament was down the drain. So that was frustrating to begin with. But there definitely was a few players to really keep an eye on. For starters, I'm going to start with Canada, because there was 2 players that really caught my eye. For starters, it's 2021 first overall pick of Owen Power. He is a big boy. He's a big defenseman. I believe he's about 6'6", but he also was able to put up some offensive numbers, and that was amazing to see. He put up a hat trick in that first game, and in general, he's just such a big body. He's able to move the puck, but also is able to launch it. And I mean, every time he launched it, his last name's Power, and it seemed to be a powerful shot that was able to fly through goaltenders. And yep, he's a great player that I'm sure Buffalo Sabres fans are frothing at the mouth to really get going with and get to see him in a Buffalo Sabres jersey. So a lot of jokes online that people want him because he's currently playing in Michigan. He's playing in college. or Michigan University, I believe that's what it is. But basically, a lot of people wanted to take the route that some other famous like college and university prospects took, where it's like they reject that offer and go to another team. It's very unlikely. It's pure speculation, but it's Leafs fans being Leafs fans of, oh, this guy grew up in Toronto. Let's throw him in a Leafs jersey. So of course that's where Toronto fans took it. But in general, he was amazing, a lot of fun to watch. And secondly, Mr. Connor Bedard, that 2023 first overall pick, top prospect for that age. And he is unbelievable. He scored a 4-goal game in our second game against Austria, the one which we actually, all of us watched together the day before the tournament was shut down. So that was pretty frustrating. It was, I can't wait to unpack this game we watched together. And then the next day it was done for. That was horrible. But in general, those were definitely some shining stars to keep an eye on. And I'm very excited to see what they can do, hopefully next time around, if World Juniors players are able to return to this tournament next year.
And you mentioned Owen Power, terrific talent for Michigan. And for the first time in what appears to be a while, Buffalo fans are punching the air because they finally have something to celebrate. This kid, I wouldn't say he's legit, because I think we knew he was going to be a pretty high-touted prospect, and we knew there was going to be some talent there. But what he put on display in the short sample size, obviously, it was terrific to see from Buffalo Sabres standpoint, from a hockey standpoint in general. I loved watching him. His powerful shot was a very fun one to watch, as well as they dismantled the Czechia. I'm out of my World Juniors talk right now, but Czechia, they beat them. I believe it was 6-3. I'm not too sure of the score, but no, they took a win there. They took a win against Austria. And Connor Bedard, I wish we talked a little bit more about him in the preview show as well. We didn't spend as much time as I like to because we had so many teams to cover, and we did a great job of it nonetheless. But Connor Bedard, we all thought he was sort of going to be the 15th forward, 14th forward on the team. So we didn't spend too much time sort of giving him a realistic chance. But with that game against Austria, one of the best World Juniors performances for Team Canada we have seen in quite some time, he lived it up to the max, and he's showing as a reason as to why he's such a high touted pick and the projected first overall pick as of right now in the near draft. So we talked about Connor Bedard. We talked about Owen Power. Rimoli, can you talk about the cancellation of the tournament? Anything that stood out to you in the brief tenure of the World Juniors?
Honestly, it kind of sucked. As you know, I hosted the World Junior thing. So, putting a lot of effort into it and then just to see it get canceled just kind of sucked. But hopefully we're talking there. I think they were talking like June, July, it'll come back, which fingers crossed it happens. But in terms of the actual hockey, I guess you guys talked about Team Canada. I'll kind of focus, I guess, Jesper Wallstedt had a ridiculous game against, was it Slovakia, I think, or was it the States? It was one of those two, maybe even both. I think both games, honestly. He was unreal. And I guess I should mention maybe some Leaf prospects.
Yes.
Topi Niemela was a little bit underwhelming. I think you wanted to say something, Mario?
No, you're right on it.
Yeah. Topi Niemela was a little underwhelming. Not calling him a bust, whatever. It was 2 games. The guy could have who's to say like that night against, I forget who they were playing, but Finland was slated to play that day. Niemela could have put up a hat trick, and all criticism is gone. So you can't really put stock into this, even smaller game sample size. Who else do we have? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, Matthew Knies, he scored a goal against Russia. Who they play? It feels like a blur to me.
It does. It does.
I know he scored. I think it was a power play goal. It might have been the first goal of the game. We have Ronnie Rovenan, who was actually pretty good. I liked him, even though he wasn't even a standout guy to me on Finland. I just thought he was good. I like their other guys a lot more, but you know what? It's fun. We had fun a couple days. We got together, ended up ripping some chill later in the evening. So I had fun, to say the least.
No, I had fun watching the tournament. I had fun ripping on you guys in Chell. I dusted the floor with you guys. I'll pat myself on the back.
Whoa, dusted the floor.
All right. Well, Jared's heroic third period comebacks, you put those ones aside, and we have a pretty good record. But again, I'll do the pumping of the tires for today's episode with Evan in Mexico. But no, you mentioned the World Juniors and things that we could have seen. Topi Niemela, what he could have done. He could have put up a hat trick. Probably unlikely, but you never know. That's the problem that I'm sort of having facing the World Junior. We don't know what we were going to see. We don't know if me and Jared's predictions of whether Sweden was going to win gold or not would come to fruition. You're not going to know. That's the sad part about it. But fear not, this will not be the last time we're going to see these star players in action. I heard that the Olympic rosters for obviously the NHL is not going, so they're sending their other players. We're going to see some familiar faces from Team Canada, at least. I haven't looked at the other teams just yet, but I've seen Team Canada. I've seen Owen Power's name on that list. And there's just a couple other ones as well. They just off a blur right now. But
oh yeah,
no,
there's a couple. Yeah, there's Cole Perfetti's playing.
Perfetti.
Kent Johnson.
Yep.
I think one of the goalies. And there's another forward I'm forgetting. But yeah, there's a couple good ones to watch out for.
Yeah,
So
so
some very questionable ones. Like I'm not going to get into the whole situations, but I mean,
let's not unpack those.
we're not getting into that.
worms.
But there was some questionable picks from Canada's point. I don't know what they were thinking there. It's just they're asking for an issue from the media, but whatever. That's the team they decided to assemble. Similar with Russia, we were getting into their.
It's not the final roster. We should probably mention that they're
not
on the final roster.
It's very rumored. It's very much the equivalent of for the World Juniors where they have that big list, or for the Olympics as well. They have a big list and then they narrow it down. So that's about the stage you're at right now. There's some very questionable kind of players that are on that. Again, I'm not going to get into why or what, but there's some interesting choices that I'm very curious to see how they're going to kind of work out.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if these young guys end up making the team. I'm sure they will, because you're just going to want to send your player to develop more and more. If you're any NHL team holding on to these guys like Winnipeg and Perfetti, Buffalo, and Owen Power, you want to hang on to these guys and see what they can do at that level as well. So hopefully that comes to fruition. We see those players playing and maybe we can get a bit of the World Juniors back. But again, it will never be the same, unfortunately. I heard things about them pushing it to the summer. It's the IHF. You never know what they're going to be doing. They got ripped on. I was going to throw it back to you guys for your opinions on that, but I think we're going to pump the brakes on the World Juniors talk just a bit. We got a lot of NHL content to get into, and many would consider the World Juniors some old news, unfortunately. So we're going to move on from the World Juniors, get into this local team that we've been discussing all throughout the year, rather. The Toronto Maple Leafs, they just took on the Edmonton Oilers tonight. And they won by a score of 4-2, but in a game that I don't even know if they really should have won. I thought the Edmonton Oilers personally were the better team. I thought the third period, the Edmonton Oilers did take it to the Maple Leafs, and funny what a momentum can do for a team. That the Maple Leafs were up, I believe, 1-0 in the first period with the goal by, I thought it was William Nielander. You had money on it being William Nielander Rimoli, and they gave it to John Tavares for some weird reason. I don't know. Yeah.
What?
My face.
No.
Exactly.
They did. Yeah, they changed it. And they announced it. They announced in the arena Nielander, but no, on the NHL app and stuff, it's Tavares.
Ridiculous, man. Ridiculous.
I cashed out. What?
He genuinely
really
touched
Hold on.
Feel the century right here.
Hold on. I'm going to NHL.
Hey, we got money. We got money at risk. And while you look that up, I'm just going to mention the goals off the top of my head as well. So I believe for the Edmonton Oilers, they bounced back 2 goals in a minute 21. That's what kind of the momentum that I was looking forward to seeing for the Edmonton Oilers, but something that they couldn't sustain because the Maple Leafs came right back with 2 goals on no shots on net for the Toronto Maple Leafs in that first period, getting one in the first opening minutes and one in the dying minutes of the first period. So I don't know. I'm going to turn it over to you guys about the game in just a second, your initial thoughts, but I want to hear your initial thoughts, Rimoli, about you not. I'm hoping you got the money. I don't know. That look gave it a bit of a.
Oh, I don't know, Mike. I don't know. It's St. Tavares now on NHL.com. I don't know what's going on over here, but you want to fill it in while I log in for a second?
Yeah, for sure. I'll turn over to you, Jay. What were your thoughts on the game? Any players that noticed you took an interest to? I personally thought Mikheyev looked pretty good for the 3rd straight game. A goal scorers score goals is what they've been saying all over Twitter. And Mikheyev has that touch, apparently 3 goals in as many games. So what'd you think of him? If he was one of your standout players, and by that reaction below me, I think I know where this one's going. But Jared, take it away, but then I'll turn it back to Rimoli here.
I'd say after a long break when a lot of players were off, I think we expected more what we saw tonight in our game against Ottawa. In the Ottawa game, we came out kind of flying. You would not have known that this is a team that just took a long time off. In tonight's game, it was a little bit more evident, I would say. I think we were a little bit, not necessarily slow, but I think we were just kind of sloppy is the main criticism that I would say. But I can't exactly say, I can't put the blame fully on us and say Edmonton was great either, because they weren't. I think it was a very sloppy hockey game all throughout. Toronto ended up potting those goals and found a way to win. So I can't be too negative. But there's definitely, we looked like a team that had missed time recently. A lot of players haven't been playing. And as a result, I think it was pretty evident when watching. So as you mentioned, Ilya Mikheyev, he was very noticeable. I saw a stat today on Twitter that he currently leads the league in, I think, goals per game. He leads.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's obviously it's not going to last or anything, but I mean, he's going to win the Rocket. We know he's going to win the Rocket.
Of course. It's a favorite.
I mean, it's not sustainable, but he's
going to win the Rocket. Now. Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
But exactly. I like to see that he's putting the puck in the net. I mean, obviously his 2 major injuries that he's had, he had a wrist injury and a thumb injury. And that very much, it was evident that
He couldn't shoot the puck as well. I think it became a mental thing eventually. It was very much in his head. So I like to see that he's finally shooting the puck more and actually resulting in pucks going to the back of the net. I love to see that. I'm trying to think of players to really highlight. I mean, Brody again put the puck in the back of the net. That was amazing. And in general, I think there's no one that I really pinpoint as to having a terrible game. I think it was overall it was a very meh game. A few players kind of took my interest, but overall nothing major. One person I did actually when I was watching, I don't know what the stats say on this. I don't even think he ended up bearing a point. But a person that actually caught my attention quite a few times was Pierre Engel, which is very interesting because the reason that I highlight that is the fact that currently, I mean, last game, Nick Richie was a healthy stretch. So at this point, it's very clear that Keefe is getting them to have some internal competition a little bit. And I actually thought Engel, even though I don't think he ended up getting an assist or anything, he was very quick with the puck. I noticed he was having puck possession and skating by people. So I actually didn't hate the game he had. That was like a random one that I noticed, like, what player am I watching right now? Because this is not the Pierre Engel I know. We know he's a very skilled player, but often he's just a step too slow. Maybe he makes a mistake in his head or whatever. That's usually the case with him. But I don't know. Tonight, I didn't hate the game he had at all. The other person, though, that's kind of fighting for a spot in the lineup is Nick Richie. Did not have a great game. He was very much at fault, I'd say, for the first goal that went in from Edmonton. Him and Sandin, I'd put kind of the blame on both of them. I think like both of them were kind of a bit too slow getting to, I believe it was Perlini who ended up putting the puck in the back of the net. But in general, I didn't hate the game we saw, but I definitely am interested to see how we can build on it because it looked like a team that noticeably missed a lot of time in the past few weeks. And I'm kind of curious to see how we're going to build on that moving forward.
And you mentioned the 2 weeks coming off the 2 weeks of no hockey whatsoever with all the postponements going on. And at least for a lot of teams, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's looking like the season's restarting a little bit. I mean, I'm seeing a lot more goals go past goalies that shouldn't be going past goalies, at least for my fantasy roster. The goals against average and the save percentages going in a bit of different directions here for the worse. So I feel like the season in general has just been detrimental for all these teams across the NHL, including the Maple Leafs. A 6-0 victory over the Ottawa Senators on, I believe it was Saturday. Saturday Night Hockey. The Leafs take a 6-0 victory over the Ottawa Senators. You're not going to see a 6-0 win if it was any other, if the games were never postponed. I feel like that was just a one-off for the Maple Leafs. And you go into tonight, I don't know. I didn't really like their game too much. You mentioned Engvall, Mikheyev, as well as Nick Richie. I was going to get into this one with you guys, but before I turn it to Rimoli here, but no, I feel like all of them are on a bit of a hot seat right now. I think they are really under pressure to perform. Nick Richie, especially. We were talking about it in our group chat, the infamous group chat that I think has been brought up in almost every episode of the Leafs Line podcast.
Every single time.
Every single episode. It goes on and on and on. But no, we were talking about Nick Richie and how this is nothing official, I don't think, but could potentially be a waiver wire target for teams to go pick up on, because with the way he's been playing, the money he's making, and where Coach Sheldon Keefe is putting him right now on the sidelines, it's not doing any good for the Maple Leafs, and it's really looking like a bad experiment for Kyle Dubas this past offseason with that signing. So he needs to really step up his game. I agree with you 100%, Jared. I didn't like his game tonight at all. I think he was the fault for that first goal the Edmonton Oilers scored. So I don't know. I think all those guys are on the hot seat. We're going to talk about it in just a second. But Rimoli, what did you think of the game in general? Any guys that stood out to you? Maybe AM34, his first game back. Didn't look like he missed any time whatsoever with the shots he was firing up on net and the chances he was producing.
Well, I should mention that as Jared was talking there, I went frame by frame on the Tavares goal, and it actually is Tavares' goal.
Really?
Not because he hit it in, because Nielander's shot deflected Tavares and went wide. That's what I was like, how? So yeah, okay, fair enough. In terms of like that actual game itself, I guess we'll start with a guy I didn't like and who I'm starting to be very, if not already concerned. I am concerned now. I look like Jake Muzzin had another horrific game. There was one play.
I know what you're talking about.
Where he just, he gave the puck away, and instead of going back, he just controller died. I'm going to glide into the play and pray they don't score. He was bailed out for. He looks slow. He looks like all season guys beating him behind. His gap is just not there anymore. He doesn't have the edges to keep up with people. So he's a guy I'm a little bit concerned about, but they won. So let's be focused on the positives here. William Nielander's a superstar. Like, I know I throw that term around now, maybe a little bit loosely. I was right on the cap resolve one. I think Nielander's a superstar, man. Like, I don't think this season you could name me. I don't think you can name me maybe 7 better wingers than him this year. I genuinely don't think you can. And tonight is a product of that. He 85% expected goals, meaning that's a ridiculous stat. So I'm going so fast here. I have so many thoughts on Nylander. He had like 1 million breakaways. He was robbed one point. He had a fantastic game. I know you said Austin Matthews had a good game. Austin Matthews had an Austin Matthews-like game. I know he didn't. Yeah, I don't think he got a point.
No, but I don't think he got a point, but he did.
He had a point. No, because Willie didn't score. No, he did.
He played well, though.
Yeah, that's what I want. Mitch Marner was invisible another day at the office. Michael Bunting, I actually didn't like his game tonight either. It looked like he was, I don't know, slipping. Looked like he was eating shit a lot. So overall, good win. Good job, Jack. We forgot to mention him. I thought he had a stellar game.
He always goes unnoticed, man. Jack Campbell always being the backbone that the Maple Leafs need. And we're going to get into what a backbone truly means for your team when we get to the Edmonton Oilers. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Goaltending is a big issue in the Oil County, but we're going to discuss that in just a bit. Let's keep on focusing on the Maple Leafs. They take a 4-2 win against the Edmonton Oilers at home. And was a weird event with no fans. If you throw a transition from a bunch of fans in the stands, packed house basically, to absolutely zero, I guess a tarp they throw over the seats to show their colors or whatever, man, it is night and day, the difference that it brings. I would not even want to go to that game. It was just me going to watch a free Leafs game. I would probably turn down those tickets because that is an awkward energy, to say the least. I don't even know how the players do it themselves. That's one thing I noticed, first of all, from a fan's point of view. But no, this Maple Leafs team, they found a way to come out on the winning side of things. Edmonton, a lot of times, at least for me, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but they came at the Maple Leafs a couple times. Leon Draisaitl had a bunch of chances that Jack Campbell steered aside. So I want to ask this question right now. New Year's resolutions, everyone's making them. I haven't made mine because why make something? This is probably one of the more Adamo Rimoli answers I could probably give. Why make something that you're not going to stick to? I mean, I don't have a New Year's resolution. I don't think I'm ever going to stick to one. So that's off the table for me. But if you had to give a New Year's resolution for the Toronto Maple Leafs, what would it be? And I'm giving this disclaimer because I know the easy answer, the easy way out is a first round.
That's exactly where my head went to.
Yeah, that's where everyone's head should be going because it should be expected. We all know that. Well, at the Leafs line, we are I would like to think we're pretty good analysts. We can go a little bit deeper than get out of the first round. What do you guys got? Because for me, I don't think that answer is going to suffice, at least for a host. Jared, I'll go with you.
Thank you.
Keep it up defensively. We've had a solid defensive season, and I think often the storyline that I've noticed that is very different than in past seasons is we're very good when we go like late into a game with a lead. We haven't had any major blunders at least yet, but I think that's something we very much need to keep up because that is something that if we start getting into those old habits, that is a problem come playoff time. And I'm not going to get into the playoff resolution, but I mean, there's some things in the game that I think we're doing well right now, but we really need to keep those things up if we want to see any success when it really matters.
100%. Ramon, you got an answer for me yet, or?
Jared, like a little bit stole what I was going on, but you know what? Because we're thinking like New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions often wanting to change something. So I think I'm go with be more consistent type of thing. Because there are some nights where we just turn it off.
You see a different Leafs team.
Yeah, like you just, and I don't get it. Like tonight, I hate being critical of Mitch Marner, but there was one shift where like he took the puck, he stripped a guy and then gave it away. And he tried like either 3-on-2 and he just passed it into those guys. Good teams will make you pay for turning over the puck. So I want to see the Mitch Marner that's firing ridiculous passes and like connecting with them. But I'm just pointing out Mitch Marner. Like this could be Austin Matthews. Like I want to see Austin Matthews, as ridiculous as it sounds. He probably could score more. Like tonight, he could have had 2 or 3. There are some nights where he's, just not like he opts for the pretty play versus scoring. And I think being more consistent would entail just kind of putting the puck in the back of the net the dirty way versus the pretty way. That's my off the top answer. Be more consistent.
And Austin Matthews, we've seen numerously in his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs that he can score in more ways than one. It's not just a signature shot, Ovi's office that he has there. Matthews can go in front of the net and tip a bunch of pucks. So his hand-eye coordination is terrific. It's off the charts, at least from a baseball perspective. Watching it from in a hockey game, it's ridiculous what that guy can do. Same as Connor McDavid, who was not in this game, this Maple Leafs game, due to I believe he was out with COVID, a positive test. So he was out. That kind of ruined the rivalry matchup that we've been all waiting to see throughout the season. Fans bought tickets to see that matchup, and they didn't get in more ways than none right now. So, no, I think we're all going to say the same thing about the Maple Leafs and the consistency. I really just want them to do what they did tonight, find ways to win. Keep on doing that, because if you can do that, you're going to be a successful team. And again, I'm not bringing up the playoff thing because we all know that's a totally different topic. And I said it off the top, this is not a suitable reason as a New Year's resolution. That's a must. You don't have to set a resolution on the 1st of January to say that. So I think consistency from all three of us is the reason why this Maple Leafs team, something that they have to look forward to and start building on if they want to be and taking those steps at the next level, because we've seen it in bits and pieces throughout the season. I think we need to see a lot more going down the meaningful stretch of the year. The Edmonton Oilers are next on our list to discuss. They have a lot of problems nipping at their heels. A lot of things considering their depth was a big problem throughout the playoffs last season. It was put on full display that behind McDavid and Draisaitl, if they're not producing, no one really was, and they got swept at the hands of the Winnipeg Jets. The offseason was a pretty good one from Ken Holland. On paper, I think we all agreed on this in our offseason predictions. I could be wrong, but at least I did. I thought they were a terrific team. A lot of upgrades on paper. They looked like they were fixing a lot of problems that they had to fix. Ken Holland had a terrific offseason, to say the least. Nothing generated from paper to the actual on-sheet ice. And no, they have not gotten depth scoring whatsoever. Even tonight with Draisaitl, he scored actually. So what am I saying? No, he got a point, he got a goal. And still not enough goals on the other side of it. They lose that game. So depth has not been there. Goaltending has not been there. They ranked on the bottom of the table with goals given up. I believe they give up 3 to 4 goals a game, something of that nature in the statistic realm. So they're not getting the puck is not getting out of the back of their net. Goaltending is a big problem. We saw the tweets and the comments from Dave Tippett and Mikko Koskinen. We'll be getting into that in just a bit. But I don't know. There's so many problems nipping at the Edmonton Oilers. What would you guys put a pin on? What's the most important one to address? And mind you, they have a lot of things to, a lot of things to not look forward to. They play one game until January 18th. That is against the Ottawa Senators, which is this week. So they play one game this week, and then they're off for quite some time. So is this a good thing or a bad thing for the Edmonton Oilers? And what is the problem that is nipping at their heels as of right now? The biggest one of them all. Jared, I'll go with you.
I mean, when you ask that question, I think the only argument you can maybe make that it's a good thing for them is because it gives time for Connor McDavid to get healthy. But in general, for a team that's kind of struggling with inconsistency, they're struggling to get their depth scoring going. I can't think of a much worse situation to be in, the fact that they aren't going to be playing games in quite a few weeks. So I don't love that. Again, there's the McDavid factor. But aside from that, as a team, I think that will probably do more harm than good. And as well, I don't like their team overall, even out of the offseason. I mean, because the Pacific Division is, in my opinion, the weakest one in the league, I picked them to finish, I believe, second in the division. But I never, looking at that roster, have a lot of confidence with them come playoff time. I think they're very much built to be top heavy. And of course, it's a good thing when you have two of arguably the best players in the world. But I don't think they have enough around them that I'm really not scared of their team whatsoever. And I think the way they're playing right now, with their goaltending not being able to pick it up, with their defense not really being able to shut things down, I think there's a lot of flaws with this roster. And I actually, as much as I'm really not a fan of, we're going to get into the coaching stuff, I'm really not a fan of how that situation was handled. Overall, I think the issue with their team is more to do with general manager situations than to do with the coaching, because I really think they have a flawed team. And I think it is up to their GM to step up and make the changes necessary, because right now, I don't think there are many teams in the league that are scared of the Edmonton Oilers right now. I just don't think they have depth from top to bottom of their lineup. I don't think they have enough depth whatsoever. And I think that's really going to kind of bite them down the way. They obviously were lucky enough to start the season hot. So it maybe covered up a lot of the issues that I think some more better analytical hockey people were able to pick up, that there still was flaws of the team. But maybe the fans were they were bribed maybe by a couple early wins. But it's seeming like the problems just continue to kind of creep up on them. And I think if they don't fix something soon, you could see a lot of problems coming the Edmonton Oilers' way. I mean, you're already seeing that they haven't won a game, and now they've won 2 of their last 13 games. So I think that is incredibly worrying. But overall, I think they have a lot of work to do to kind of get them back going. They found a way to do it before at an earlier point in the season. So maybe they can find a way to do it again, but I don't like their roster from top to bottom. I don't like some of the things their coach is saying. And overall, I think they have a lot of work to do in making this a competitive team.
And I mean, I know we live in Ontario. We know how reality works. It's been hitting us extremely hard over the last couple of days, last couple of months, you name it. Reality has been hard hitting this past year. And reality has been hard hitting this past season for the Edmonton Oilers because they start from a team that is so successful on the power play was their main strength, generating goals from there. And we thought that on paper, this team, I don't know about you guys. I don't want to speak for you guys. I'm sure you guys have different thoughts on the Edmonton Oilers, but at least for me, like I mentioned, I thought they had a terrific offseason, but I don't know. I don't see anything that scares the opposing teams when you're coming up against the Edmonton Oilers. Like if McDavid is not on that lineup, which he was not tonight, and Leon Draisaitl is left alone, I saw a lot of times where Leon Draisaitl is looking to his left and he doesn't got a player to pass to, or he doesn't got a pass to receive that's going to be like of the likes of Connor McDavid. It throws your entire sort of team off. There's different energy in the locker room with McDavid not there. I don't know. There's so many problems with this team defensively. A flawed team. And what is the answer that you would probably suggest, Jared, to fix this flawed team? Because I know trades in the middle of the season are they come very few and in between. How do you get out of this rut? Because this could be a very permanent rut. We've seen teams that have had horrible starts to the year and haven't been able to recuperate themselves. Philadelphia Flyers kind of ring a bell to me, at least, where they had a bunch of big offseason acquisitions that nothing has ever worked for them. They fell on a bad streak at the beginning of the year and haven't been able to claw their way back. Edmonton Oilers, I don't think they're going to fall that low, but with a team with this many flaws, how do you do without getting a fix in there?
As much as I agree with what you're saying in that trades, especially big trades that shake up your whole roster, aren't too common at this point in the season, I still think that is the answer. And I think, sorry, they're still with Ken Holland, correct?
They are.
Yes.
Okay, I was just making sure before I blurted out that name and was about to get called an idiot all over online. So, yeah, Ken Holland, I thought so, but I was just making sure. Ken Holland, I think it's time that he needs to pick up the phone and make some calls. And as much as, yes, depth scoring is a huge issue, but if they could get another depth scorer, that would be amazing. But the biggest flaws that I notice on this team is defensively and in the goaltending department.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, to be honest, on offense, defense, and goaltending, I could pick apart a few flaws in this team. So I genuinely think there's a lot of work to do. And it's unfortunate because you could look at teams that are just bad from all throughout of their lineup. I wouldn't put Edmonton in that category, but I think they're, at this point, I'd call them a very mediocre team that, as much as they likely will end up making the playoffs, I don't really see them being very dangerous what they get there, once they get there. And that's very unfortunate because I'd love to see a superstar like McDavid or Draisaitl eventually lift the Stanley Cup. But with the team they have right now, I just don't know if they're built to do it. I really don't like their roster, if I'm being honest here. And I'm a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who for years had the reputation of being too heavy offensively, but maybe weren't good enough defensively to stop opposing teams. And I see a lot of those same problems with the Edmonton Oilers, even more so in some areas, I'd argue. And for that reason, I don't like what I'm seeing in front of me when looking at that roster. And I think for that reason, they have a lot of work to do in getting back to being more competitive.
Yeah, the Oilers are getting a bit old. I'm sure fans are fed up with this team simply because it's the exact same problem year in, year out, playoff round in, playoff round out. It's a collateral damage. Defense has always been the issue. Goaltending, at least for me, I don't remember to date a goaltender for the Edmonton Oilers that's been extremely successful. I don't remember a starting goaltender that's putting up all-star numbers. I don't know. It's been quite a while that I've seen an Edmonton Oilers goalie that's been capable of keeping a team afloat. Koskinen, Skinner, and Mike Smith, who I don't really like to bring up old things that I've said or things I've said in the past, but I was never high on Mike Smith just because that age, that injury tendency that he was having last season. It's now spilled into this season. So I think we're just seeing the reality of what Mike Smith is and what a goaltender is, I guess, incapable of doing at that age. So goaltending is a big area of need that needs to be fixed. Rimoli, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you make of all the problems that are hitting the Edmonton Oilers? Both, it could be injuries too, because they've had a lot of things, but injuries is never something to complain about in the National Hockey League. All teams go through it. It's about the better teams that come out on the other end in a better position. So what do you make of problems nipping at the Edmonton Oilers?
I'll start with like the biggest thing that I'm not going to blame on the coach is goaltending. I'm sure, I don't know if we're going to discuss the Mikko Koskinen quote, but even like Mikko Koskinen is not a good goalie, and we know this. Like, I don't blame him for not stopping pucks because he's not good at it. So, like, don't blame him. Like, you're not going to get starting goalie numbers out of a average backup. And then Mike Smith is 40, man. Like, he should not be your starting goalie. How do you sign them for 2 years? They're getting below league average save percentage. They're going below league average goals against average. Like, I think I had it in front of me. Like, Koskinen is on like an 8.99 this season. Like, it's not good enough.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does this team have cup aspirations? Do they have legit?
Any team with Connor McDavid should have cup aspirations.
So you head into season after season with cup aspirations, and you have this guy. You know how important goaltending is in this league. Look at every single Stanley Cup winner. I don't know how many years to go back because it doesn't even matter. Every single one. There's a hot goalie in the postseason, which is usually one of the rare things we see, or you have a goaltender that steers the ship throughout the entire season. For Maple Leafs fans, it's a terrific accident because Jack Campbell is doing
he fell into our lap.
He's fell into our lap. We have him on a terrific deal as of right now. We'll kick that can down the road. But no, like goaltending is the main thing in the league that you need to be successful. This team has cup aspirations, so we can all agree on it. We all agree that they have cup aspirations with the player.
Well, Ken Holland disagrees.
Well, there we go.
That's the issue I have because I don't know if you guys remember this, but Ken Holland's big thing and his big quote last season and the season before that is you can't go in every year. Which I agree with to a certain extent. To a certain extent, you probably shouldn't trade away all your first round picks. And, I like if the Leafs really wanted to, let's just send out Amarov, send out Robertson, trade Nielander, all of them get back Forsberg, Hall, and build a super team. But that's unrealistic and never going to happen. So you can't go all in every single year, but you can trade a first round pick to go get a good guy. You can trade one of your prospects. If the Leafs traded Nielander, I'd be a little upset. But if they brought us back Dougie Hamilton, oh well, so like you said, a team with cup aspirations, or that should have cup aspirations. If you don't have cup aspirations with Connor McDavid, that's problem number one.
Something wrong.
That is problem number one. And I don't think I think they do have cup aspirations. I think they are trying to win the Stanley Cup this year, because how do you not with Connor McDavid? My issue is I think they're being a little bit too conservative, if that makes sense. I hear in the works that, not in the works, but the rumor is they're going after Ben Sherratt for a first round pick, it's not how you spend a first round pick. Please don't, Edmonton. Like, I feel terrible for your fan base if you do. But I do want to see them, send a first round pick. Go get Philip Forsberg. He's on the last year of his deal. Go get, I don't know, why weren't you more aggressive on Taylor Hall? Like, Taylor Hall would have went back. I'm 100% sure if Taylor Hall was traded to the Oilers and is playing beside Connor McDavid and puts up 30 goals, he's staying there. So my big issue with them is that, to answer your question, they're not in enough, to put it shortly.
They're not on the same page either. I think that's also something you're kind of trying to say as well. Management and the players, what they want, the coaching, everything is in cahoots. Not one person is on the same page of what they want. Listen, you're the Edmonton Oilers. Let's put into perspective what the Edmonton Oilers mean in hockey. They've had a terrific franchise history with the best player on the planet in Wayne Gretzky. They hoisted many cups, dynasty cups, with Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier.
4 years.
Yep, there was a terrific run. A lot of people I know, older generation, are Oilers fans for that reason. There's a huge fan base in Edmonton. Hockey is taken. I've never been to Edmonton, so I can't really say on personal experience, but what I hear in the hockey world, Edmonton is one of the metas of the hockey world. Everyone cares for that sport. Very passionate fan base. So you have that. You're not like a nobody team, nobody franchise that if you don't do something with the Stanley Cup aspirations that you have, we're not really going to care. Everyone is passionate about this team. You're the Edmonton Oilers. You have cup aspirations. You got the best player in the world last time out in 2, 3, 4 decades ago. You have the best player in the world right now. So you have the best player in the world. Start acting like a team that has the best player in the world and do something with it, because it's getting ridiculous. I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan saying this, and you guys know I like to put all biases aside when I talk on the podcast, but for Edmonton Oilers fans, it's got to be getting ridiculous. It's getting fed up because you have so much capital with your team. You have so many things that you can use to your advantage. You have decent picks. You have prospects that you can ship off and get a decent haul for. They're not doing any of it whatsoever. They're hesitant. And like I said before, they're not on the same page. So if you're the Edmonton Oilers, wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that there has to be a change. Jared, is that a coaching change? Is that management change? What is it? Because it's coming close. The string, the leash, whatever you want to call it, whatever metaphor you want to use, it's coming down to a thread because I don't know what's holding this team together anymore.
I think a coaching change is the more talked about thing in the media right now. But if I were to be steering the ship here, I'd be eyeing down a GM move because I think Ken Holland is not the right guy to run this team. I don't think he, like you guys said, you guys absolutely nailed it. I don't think he understands the roster he has, and I don't think he understands how to make the roster he have take a step forward and become a true cup contender, which they absolutely should be with the talent they have. In hearing what all you guys said, because I think both of you absolutely nailed it, I think GM is absolutely the move you have to do. You could talk about a coaching change as well. I don't like some of the things he said, whatever, but I don't think that's the most pressing issue right now. I think absolutely the way the team is constructed is the biggest problem on this team.
And I guess I'm going to ask this question right back to back. When does this happen? How bad does this hole have to be dug? How deep does this hole have to be dug for something to happen? Because I don't know, do you see a GM change getting made in the middle of the season? I think it might have to be, but do you see it happening in Edmonton? They're not known for sacking guys in the middle of the year when they don't have to. I don't know. Like, what do you do?
I think it would make sense. I don't think it'll happen because a move like that is just very unlikely. It's like the, I guess, best case scenario because it's like you're trying to forward this, not rebuild, but you're trying to like jumpstart the team into actually striving to be competitive. So I think it should happen as soon as possible, but it's just very unlikely that that actually takes place just because aside from issues where a team is very much like their season's done for, how often do you see a GM or a coaching change? And I mean, obviously you're looking at a few weeks ago already, Vancouver, but that was a very much like a worst case scenario. The team was absolutely in shambles, and that's why that was the move they made. I don't think Edmonton's quite there. However, they're definitely treading down that road. If this continues, then you have to make that decision, I'd say, sooner rather than later.
And I think for me, it's the history. There's too much history with this team where they've been treading down that rabbit hole so often, more often than not, I think we should say, because they've never been reaping any rewards from any of their seasons. I don't care what getting into the playoffs means. You have a team that it's not even on the table. You have to get getting into the playoffs with a team like that in division like they are in right now in the Pacific. Not to say it's a bunch of bad teams, but it's a weaker division of the in the NHL. So that's a must. This team needs change right now, I think. I don't think you have to wait for the offseason to come. And if it gets even worse, you have to pick up the shovel throw down the shovel because they're constantly bringing themselves and digging themselves their own grave with so much talent. This is what I hate, watching wasted potential, wasted talent go down the drain. And at least for me right now, goalie, I think is the biggest reason. The biggest thing that they have to address is a goalie. Where are you going to find a goalie? A lot of the teams nowadays, homegrown goaltending is the big thing we're seeing in the NHL. So many young goaltenders starting to make their debuts with their clubs and sort of starting to shine. Igor Shesterkin, we're going to get into him a lot because he's been working wonders down in the Big Apple. He's a big attest to that. But no, it's not about signing goaltenders here and there, getting rental goaltenders like the Edmonton Oilers have been doing for years on end. It's about growing one from house. I think Stuart Skinner. There you go. I think he is, if I'm not mistaken, he was drafted by the Oilers or he is a homegrown talent. You are praying that he's the next Messiah for this team because he's going to be tested with it throughout this season and the ones in the future. The Edmonton Oilers need a goaltender, and I think right now is to pull the trigger because it's the main problem nipping at their heels. I don't know. Is there anything else to say about this group? Because I think we're just running in circles, and I want to get into the coaching comments right now if you guys are all done talking about the Oilers because so much to talk about, so many problems nipping at them. It's incredible which direction this Edmonton Oilers team can go towards. And I'm hoping at least just from a hockey standpoint, because I want to see McDavid one day lift the cup. He deserves it. No player on earth is better than him, at least in my opinion. I'm sure we can all agree on that here. I want to see him get rewarded with this team. And I don't know right now, they're not in the great headspace to do it. I don't think they're in the right headspace to do it, but let's get into the coaching stuff. Again, Jared, I kind of agree with you. I don't think it's a coaching thing right now, but the comments that he made was a little controversial on Twitter. And I don't disagree. Sorry, I don't agree with it too much on Dave Tippett's side, just because ripping on Stuart Skinner is really bad. All right, not Stuart Skinner. Koskinen, he is a very inconsistent goalie. I am not a fan of him. He has played himself out of Edmonton. There's been nothing positive about his game, so he deserves criticism, all the criticism he's getting. But if to blame it all on him, I think is the wrong message that you're sending as a coach, especially in a time like this where the tensions are hot in the locker room, so much uncertainty with people's jobs. It's not the best thing, especially coming off a huge break like that as well. Not the best energy to have. Dave Tippett. If you don't know about the comments, go look him up on Twitter. It'll be the first thing you see when you type in Dave Tippett's name. I'm sure he's trending on Twitter as we speak. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts in the comments? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong here? Adam, I'll start with you and I'll make your way to Jared.
So the big thing about this comments is that his last 6 losses. In his last 6 losses, the Edmonton Oilers have scored 7 goals.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 6 losses, he has given up, I think, 24 goals, which both are bad. So you can't win like that. I feel bad for not Stuart Skinner. Well, him too, but Mikko Koskinen, because as much as he's playing shit, this supposed high flying offense is not doing that. So you shouldn't expect, like I said before, you shouldn't expect a bad goalie to be good, because he is not a good goalie. This is simple. So the fact that if you're Dave Tippett, you should be looking at, the other 23 skaters that put up 7 goals in 6 games over your not good goalie playing not good. So that's my quick thoughts on it.
Jared, what about you? What do you got on the rundown with this situation?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with what Adamo said, first of all. But just to move farther with it, I just think, especially when it comes to a goaltender where confidence is such a big part of the equation, I just think it was such a bad way to handle that situation. Like, you could have that same conversation in a little bit more motivating of a way, and maybe not in public in front of the media, in front of a hot microphone. Like, I just think there was a way better method of going about that situation to motivate your goaltender, because I just think it was absolutely the wrong way to handle it. And I would not expect comments like that, especially the way he took it, where he kind of clapped back in the media. It doesn't sound like that's what's working to motivate him. If anything, it sounds like it's making him mad and making him not even want to play for this coach. So I think it was a very unfortunate word choice from him. I understand goaltending has to carry a lot of the blame because it simply hasn't been good enough. There's a better way of getting more out of your goaltender that isn't our goalie played horrible and that's the reason we lost. Like, I think there has to be a middle ground. You have to go about it a different way. And I just think it was very unfortunate the way that was handled. And just a little bit of a note, because my brother played goaltender, like when he was just playing like Fort Hill Rebels, like select hockey. He was a goalie, so I kind of asked him what are his thoughts on that. Like, what if, because my dad was my dad was his coach. So I was like, what if dad were to pull you aside or even in front of like a crowd and say something like that? And he's like, well, I'd be freaking pissed. Like, I'd be so deflated. I'd be so like, and as much as, yes, in my situation, it's a father-son relationship, still in this situation, that's the coach. That's supposed to be the leader on your team, the one that you're all fighting for and playing for. And I just think he absolutely went about that the wrong way. And there's a reason that, at least from the sounds of it, it sounds like he's lost the room at this point, which is just a shame, because I think they should be able to be a lot better than this. And I don't know. I really don't like that as much as what I said earlier. Like, I think Ken Holland's much more of a problem right now than Dave Tippett. But I really did not like the way that was handled. And I was not a fan of that whatsoever.
So to recap here, I think we all agree that goaltending is the big problem, the huge problem nipping at the Edmonton Oilers. But again, there's a factor of other problems that sort of swarm into the equation here, because the offense hasn't been producing behind McDavid. And you can even bring in those 2 superstars. I know they haven't been doing too terrific as of late during this cold stretch, but again, the offense behind them has not been bailing them out whatsoever, and the defense on that end point hasn't been too great as well. So those are the problems there. Goaltending is a big one. And for the coaching perspective, I played a lot of years in sports. I played hockey. My dad was a trainer, so we had a pretty coach-son relationship there. I've played baseball, probably more passionate sport. And personally, for me, if I'm Koskinen, I handle criticism well if someone's screaming in my face and calling me out in front of a large crowd. I will respond. That's personally how I deal with it. Goaltenders, like you mentioned, Jared, are probably the weirdest people on the planet. Like left-handed pitchers in baseball, they have no clue how to deal with themselves. Zach Greinke is a left-handed pitcher in baseball, and he called his back catcher to a Mount visit and discussed a fantasy football trade. So there is a lot of things wrong. That did happen. It is confirmed. He said it himself in an interview. A lot of things wrong with left-handed pitchers and goaltenders. That aside, and my bias against them aside, because I couldn't hit against left-handed pitchers, quite evidently, the curve could not handle me. No, but putting that all aside, mentality for these two positions, hockey more in particular of a goaltender, it's totally off the charts. It takes a different human being. You have to be calm on the inside. Calm, cool, collective is the metaphor everyone uses, and it's absolutely true because you have to have a cool mind. And you have to just roll with the punches. Koskinen and Tippett, you have burned a bridge right now. And Koskinen's not going to forget the word that you said, Dave Tippett. And Dave Tippett, it's not going to be, you're losing a lot of trust in this goaltender. What it reminds me of, and maybe you guys do remember this, totally different time periods. With the Maple Leafs, when they were in the gutter in 2015, 2014, those years, I think it might have been 2014. James Reimer was on the team. Randy Carlyle had a post-game interview, and Reimer was throwing saves out there, trying to give him a fighting chance, but he got lit up. And a lot of it wasn't his fault. Randy Carlyle, they asked him how he thought Reimer played. He's like, oh, I thought he played just okay. And Reimer goes the other way on the other side of the reporters. He's like, you thought I just played okay? Okay, I'll keep that in mind. And there was a full lack of trust between the coach and the goaltender. And that is a doomsday weapon for teams. You do not want to go there. You don't want to touch it. And like you mentioned, Jared, the forbidden words as a coach, you have lost the room. So I think it was horrible remarks on Tippett's part. You should know heading into the season, it doesn't take a press conference to prove this, how to push your players, which buttons to push. Those were not the right ones with Mikko Koskinen. And I'm sure he's going to regret it. He tried to clear up his comments, but a lot of people weren't buying it. So I don't know. You mentioned, Jared, that Ken Holland's on a bit of a hot seat right now. Dave Tippett is pretty close behind him, and Edmonton Oilers group. I don't think we're going to spend too much more time on them because I think we just nailed everything on the head. These guys are all in a pretty bad spot. It's up if the team is truly, if they know what they're made of, they will come out of it successfully and they will learn from this and take away from this and put into results. But this Edmonton Oilers team has been scarred too many times, far more times than many other teams. And it's just all up in the air right now. How is this team going to react with this adversity dealt with them? And this 4-2 loss to the Maple Leafs tonight, just another dish to serve. But I think we'll move on from the Edmonton Oilers and get to a team that I am so happy to announce for Adamo Rimoli, because I got statistics for the first time in a while to pull up. I dig for these statistics. They're not just the regular ones you see on stat lines, my friends. They are ones that you have to look into and maybe analyze. And I want to ask you guys this. How do you analyze, and you know this way more than I do, Adamo, Jared, I know you're pretty big in the stat game as well. How do you, what stat word to show toughness for a team, physicality for a team?
You know, that's interesting.
It's all perspective. That's why I ask you, because I have different perspectives. I got into a pretty big one with my editor when I wrote a story about the Rangers about perspective. What does toughness mean to you? And how does that translate in statistical realm?
I don't think you can quantify. I think you can quantify it, but I think you'd have to get creative with it because I don't think hits are a good way of putting it because hits imply.
I can't wait for this.
Hits imply that you do not have the puck.
Yep. So story of my ESHL career.
Even when we're playing ESHL, I was going to bring it up and Matt, shut up, Matt. And he's trying to chirp me, oh, I have 13 hits. Well, I had the puck. So that's why I don't think when people will say, oh, you need hits. I want 30 hits from the Leafs tonight. That's how they're going to win this game. No, I want 10 hits from the Leafs tonight. Well, not 10. 10's a little too little. I want 20 hits and I want 70% time of possession. So in terms of quantifying toughness, I'd probably say probably board battles, probably puck retrievals. That's probably a big one, like forechecking stats. Maybe net front goals too tend to show toughness because it's not a good area to score. And William Nielander consistently leads the league in that. So yeah, I'm curious to what you have to say, Mario.
No, so I mean, I attribute toughness to from a basic guy. I'm new to the stat game, so I'm learning as we go. You're doing a pretty good job of teaching me what toughness really means. But off the bat, what toughness means to me, was hits per game. And the reason why I say this, obviously they don't have as much possession, but I looked at the leap that the New York Rangers took from last season to this. And Toughness, if you remember that game, 6-3 loss, May 3rd, 2021 against the Washington Capitals, where Panarin got absolutely ragdolled in the corner trying to help his idle teammate, Pavel Buchnevich. I hate it. I'm a very Tom Wilson hater. Don't like him at all. And that was at the forefront of discussion, but they were getting criticized. And a lot of guys got fired for it. Different culture in the room, not a tough culture whatsoever, very passive. The fan base thought they were soft. So I looked at the stats. I did some digging a little bit. Their hits per game last season, I have it right here. They ranked 16th in the NHL on hits per game with, I will give it to you, 21.84 hits per game. So take that as you will. This season, I thought they got a lot tougher. They brought in guys like Ryan Reeves, Barclay Goodrow, who you might not think is a tough guy, but if you look at his size, his stature, his frame, and what he's been doing, you've been bringing in a lot of hits this way. And this is what I have to say. So this year they rank, do you want to take a guess at where they rank?
In hits?
Yep.
4th.
Very close. They rank 7th in the league in hits per game with 26.03. That's a big boost, at least for in my opinion. So that's kind of why I'm saying this team got a lot more tougher than last season. I don't know if it's a valid argument with statistics. You could probably be the judge of that. But for a guy who's getting his feet wet with it, am I pleading a case? I think I would make it a bit better if I looked at the time of possession and I saw that if those how those results changed. I don't know.
I'll stat you back.
Do it, please.
Do you want? Okay, so leading the league in hits right now, hits per game, with 28.48 hits per game. Do you want to guess who that is?
Tampa Bay Lightning?
No.
Brady Tkachuk.
Is it a player or a team?
Oh. Team. 28 hits per game. Just want to keep guessing. I'll give you two guesses.
Montreal?
Nope.
Vegas.
Nope. They're actually dead last. The Ottawa Senators. Do you want to guess where the Ottawa Senators are in the standings?
I believe 31st.
Third last, 30th place.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh,
outlier.
That's a slap in the face to me.
Outlier, maybe.
I'll take the kick in the pants.
Do you want who's in second?
In hits per game?
Yeah.
Montreal?
The Islanders.
Yeah, so that is
it
the slap in the face to Mario's argument.
No. It gets brighter because third is Boston, who has been mediocre. Fourth is Tampa.
This is where this is where my argument sort of started to come a little bit into play.
Fifth is Pittsburgh. Sixth is, like you said, sixth is Florida, then seventh Rangers, and eighth Montreal, then the Kraken. So what I'm trying to get at here, I'm kind of naming random teams. There's no correlation to winning. I think hitting is a good thing. I think getting more hits is good, but I don't think getting more hits is the end all be all, nor is it the way to win games.
No,
you should not go into an off season thinking we need to get more hits because that's going to translate to more wins, because that's flawed. We need to get tougher to win more games. That's where you have an argument.
That's where I'm trying to make. And I think I'm not saying that the reason why the Rangers are winning is because they're hitting. That's not it. I was going to get to my next point.
Okay.
This is the even bigger one. I thought toughness was something that they had to get done last offseason. I thought they did that with the players they added. And I think they're reaping a bit of the rewards right now. And toughness definitely plays a factor in, at least in some sort of a way where that they're winning. It's definitely a small one, but it's not the big one. The big one, I think it is hard to argue and pass up on the goaltending that they are getting. We saw as Leaf fans, if you remember that game, it was actually our first episode we published on YouTube titled Vezina. Do you know who was on the cover of that episode?
Mr. Igor Shesterkin.
Mr. Igor Shesterkin. This man is, if you want to, I don't know what metaphor you want to use, but he is ridiculous.
He's hot.
He is. I don't know if he's just hot, man. He's good. He's good. He's the real deal. I would put him right now in top 3 Vezina voting because he is. I don't even know if that's a bold prediction because look, I'll read you the numbers.
No, I think that's
15-4-2 record, 209 goals against average, 936 save percentage. You want to put this into context, and this is the reason why I was a little skeptical on the New York Rangers. Their backup situation combined for 7 wins, 3 losses, and 2 overtime losses on the year. They picked up 4 of those wins against the Arizona Coyotes and the Montreal Canadiens. So how big? This is the big question. I worked my way up to it. Big question. Is this team a legit contender, or are they just smoke in mirrors? Is it just a mere flash in a pan, hot streak? Is this all we're going to see? Because they got a lot of things that they got to deal with on their own. Playoff success has not been up the Rangers' avenue, so to speak. They haven't made it past the second round since 2015. I think they lost to the Canadian. I don't know who it is. They lost to a team, will remain unnamed, but they have a lack of playoff success in their franchise history as of late. So they have things that they need to change. And is this guy going to get them to the promised land, or is it just a hot streak and this team has nothing else but goaltending? Damo, I'll start with you. Jared, I'll go over back to you.
I'm a little conflicted because I like the team. I like some of the players on it, but at the same time I don't, because I think we were in the car together when I put out a take saying Mika Zibanejad is the most overrated hockey player in the NHL.
And why is that?
I still stand by that. This guy is a power play merchant, and he is inconsistent as fuck. He's like the uncle's version of William Nielander times like a million. He'll score he'll have a 4-goal game. I'm willing to bet Mika's, because he had a hat trick a couple nights ago, by the way. I'm willing to bet Mika has like another 5-goal game, and then later, guys, see ya. So, like, that's your second line center too. He's probably your second best forward, I think. Yeah,
he's in the first line. He's there.
Yeah, he's one of your guys. Yeah. In terms of being a legit contender, maybe. Like I do like your argument. Actually, did kind of they brought in some toughness. They brought in Reeves. They brought in Goudreau, who's been there. Shesterkin is legit. I'd like to think. I don't like when a goalie carries a team, because I don't think goalies can carry teams to cups. I think goalies can carry teams deep, but they can't carry them to cups. So you need that depth, which I think if Lafreniere, Capo can somehow turn into very good players, you're looking at like a legit team. And totally forgot to mention Adam Fox is having a Norris caliber season.
Point per game still this year.
Ridiculous. He's one guy I was so wrong about, and
a lot of people.
I still thought he'd be fantastic. Like, the guy won the Norris for a reason. I didn't think he'd be point a game again, which I am very wrong about. So credit to him.
I'll throw it over to you before I give a little bit more thoughts on what's behind Igor Shesterkin and the New York Rangers.
Personally, I don't think this year's the year. I'm just going to go out and say that just by looking at their lineup, as much as they're having amazing regular season success, they look, in my opinion, like a team that is going to have a hot regular season because their stars are all contributing. But as soon as in a playoff matchup, which they're likely going to get a tough matchup considering they're in the Metro, I don't know if they're going to have what it takes to take on one of the bigger, tougher, more proven teams that they're likely going to have to go up against. So it's not really a knock or a criticism on them. I just don't think they're quite ready for it yet. However, the pieces are definitely there. The future's definitely bright in New York. And I think if they keep things up, if they can get guys like Lafreniere starting to play like the player he was expected to be, which is actually recently, at least I've seen, he's had a couple highlights. He's been picking it up a little bit. Same with Capo. Had a lot of high expectations and hasn't quite lived up to them yet. So I think they have a lot still to prove, and for me to stamp them with they're a contender mark. However, I think the pieces are there. They, in a few years' time, could be a very dangerous team that absolutely has a chance at winning a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Adamo, I think you were saying the same thing, where this team, not yet in a contender, but were you saying that they're getting carried by Shesterkin, or is it, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you're trying to say as well.
I'm honestly, do we have a 10-minute thing? I'm honestly not 100% sure. I don't think they're getting carried by Shesterkin, but he's definitely a big factor to their success, which is fine, as long as you're not getting hard carried by him, which I don't think they're getting carried.
It's borderline, though. It's a little closer than you like.
You can make that argument for Jack Campbell carrying the Leafs defense too.
Okay.
Which I don't know if we're ready to go there yet, because I don't think he's carrying them. But I think you have a Vezina caliber goalie, ride him, right? You're not going to tell him, hey, man, start being mediocre just so we can prove we're a good team. No, he's a fantastic goalie. You're scoring with him. Like, their numbers aren't – I don't think their numbers are inflated in any sense. I think he's just having a great season, and it's giving them results.
100%. And I mean, the only reason why I don't think they're contenders yet, I'm not going to label them as that as such, is just because of the offense. Like you mentioned, Zibanejad being the definition of a hot and cold player. Jared, you mentioned it with the young forwards. I'm going to get into it a little bit more and bring up the final probably bit of statistics that I have. I dig even more digging. And yeah, so over the last 3 games, Lafreniere has 3 points in as many games. So he has 27% of his current point total in those 3 games. Capo Caco had a 2-week hot streak in mid-November that accounted for 73% of his current point total right now. So if that doesn't define the definition of a hot and cold offense, I don't know what does, because these guys, I'm not going to say I think, I hope, Rangers fans, you better hope, because you have back-to-back first round picks that have the capabilities, have this tool set and the mindset to be great players. But still, I have not seen any positive signs yet. I know they're turning a corner a little bit, but a 3-game sample size is not going to make me believe that this team, I'm not going to quickly label them as contenders, because there's got to be a lot more substance involved when you're labeling the New York Rangers. Igor Shesterkin's terrific. I'm a huge fan of him. He makes me yell at my screen all the time when they face the Leafs. I'm sure you guys are on the same boat. And I think that's not that all they got, but he's playing a greater role than Rangers fans would like to see. And I don't think this is going to be, I think it's going to be sustainable for himself, but for this team and getting wins and playoff wins with Shesterkin on the back end, putting up these performances, I don't think so. I think we're on the same page there. I think that's all I really want to say on the New York Rangers. My big question, I wrote a huge article if you want to check it out. It's going to be on, I just joined this new sort of student-run newspaper for Ryerson, Over the Line Sports. You basically just walk in there and write whatever you want. It's pretty chill. And me and my editor we had a good discussion today about, he kind of critiqued a lot of things in my paper, which a lot of them were granted, and other ones we didn't see on the right foot. But no, if you want to check it out, it'll be out probably in the next 24 hours. Definitely check it out. You can see these statistics live, and you can read them live, and you can see my arguments put into words. So go ahead, check it out. I'll give a little bit of a plug there. But no, that's all I think we should say on the New York Rangers. Again, terrific talents there. Just got to maybe string it together a little bit more. They're a hot team right now. I still think they're smoke and mirrors, not legit contenders just yet. With the conclusion of Rangers talk, something I always love doing on this show, we get into something I also love doing on this show, the 7th trivia segment of the Leafs Line podcast. Week 13 of the Leafs Line podcast, season 2, week 13, and we got another trivia segment on the board and queued up for you guys. The first trivia segment, nonetheless, of 2022, and the first episode of 2022, which is a pretty cool accomplishment, nonetheless. But let's get into the trivia right now, shall we? So here it is. You guys know the rules. Raise your hand if you know the answer, and if you don't get it right, I turn to the next side. This one's pretty simple. It is just Jared and Adamo. Evan is still with the cartel in Mexico doing God knows what. But let's get into question 1. Who was the first player to get their number retired for the Arizona Coyotes? Remote.
Shane Doan.
Correct. Could you give me the date or the opponent, just for the kicks and the laughs?
November 28th, 2000.
That was a good try, but it was February 24th against the Winnipeg Jets. You get the point nonetheless. Quick one on the board, 1-0, Adamo. Jerry, let's see if you can bounce back with this one. Question 2, at least question for you guys. What team did TJ Brodie score on for his last regular season goal with the Leafs? Now, this is not about the 2021-2022 season, which we're seeing right now. Before that, Adamo, you got it. And I mean, if you're sort of thinking the way I am, you got a 1 in 6 chance of guessing this correctly, considering they played in the North Division.
Montreal Canadiens.
He goes 2 for 2. Yes, it is the Montreal Canadiens. Man, he is on fire. Cannot tame this guy. It was Montreal in April of 2020, 3-2 victory for the Maple Leafs. And TJ Brodie played a part of it. He's been playing a huge part. If you told me that TJ Brodie currently would have a point streak since December 14th, I would call you insane.
Goal streak.
Goal streak, not even a point streak. He got a goal streak since December 14th against the Edmonton Oilers, I believe it was. And it's continuing. And he got one in this win against the Edmonton Oilers. So, question 2 goes to Adamo. He's up 2-0. Let's see if he can get the sweep, or Jared can put a syringe on the blood. Question 3, here it comes. How many Australian-born NHL players are currently playing in the NHL? And can you name me the player for an extra point? So if you have a chance to tie it, actually, with this point, if you get me the how many, the amount, and the players, we don't know who it is, how many there are, go for it, Jared.
I believe it is Nathan Walker. And there's one player from Australia in the league.
And we are knotted up at 2s, and I don't have a bonus question. Worst timing for not having a bonus question, man. I didn't think it'd go this way.
I heard Austrian, so I
Austrian.
would have said Marco Rossi.
Did I say Austrian?
I think you probably
No,
said
I heard Australian.
Okay, I'm a valid man. Okay, so Australian, that is the correct answer, Nathan Walker. If you remember, and if you also do remember this, we didn't go to a trivia segment for our last Leafs Line podcast video. This is legit recycled material. So that week he scored a hat trick in his, I believe, his NHL debut. So I put this question in there to give him a bit of a salute there. We never ended up getting to it, but now we finally got to it. And yeah, we ended the day off here from the trivia segment, tied at 2. That puts the grand total. Adama, you're still in the lead. Don't you worry. You got 12 points on the year. Jared, you got 10 points on the year. And this includes the World Juniors as well. I included this one in the mix. And Evan should have been here, man. You got a meager 7 points. Still finding ways to fall back, even when you're not even here. So definitely something that can be improved on. But what can probably be improved on for the majority of this year, maybe I'll set a New Year's resolution for myself. It's probably the conclusions of these videos. I find I do a really garbage job of wrapping these things up, but no, we'll try it this way. I can't think of an easy segue to get out of it, but I'm pooped. Jared's pooped. This guy is full of energy at the bottom of my screen. I want to thank you guys. He's going to run a marathon. I want to thank you guys for coming back on the podcast. First Leafs Line podcast video of the year. Can't believe I spread this thing into 2022 with a great group of guys nonetheless. Evan, this is why I say it, because you're not here. But thank you guys for hopping on the show. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. I appreciate all the support from the fans, especially on that World Junior stuff. I really appreciate that support there. So thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, that's all the Leafs news that we can cover for this week. I'm sure in the upcoming weeks we'll have more because the NHL is in cahoots right now. We don't know what's going on. So many uncertainties in the world right now. At least hockey can bring us together and we can discuss it this way. So thank you guys all for tuning in and have a great rest of your evening.